Welcome to Others from Another Mother. My name is Dan Cleary, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, friend, and person down for the cause, Mr. Chad Schlosser. What's happening, dude?
Great to see you, buddy. Even if it's through a screen this time, we're in different states, but the same state of mind.
Yeah, there you go. This is what we gotta do sometimes because you live in the Pacific Northwest and I live in Los Angeles. Usually we find time to do this together, but with recent events and traveling issues, we're going to do it over Zoom because we do have a lot to discuss. I attended the hearing in DC last week, September 9th. And it was fantastic. And I thought today we could do a breakdown of your thoughts of the hearing, my thoughts of the hearing, what we want to see in the future, and just kind of really dive into the kind of stuff that we heard about this past week.
Yeah, really another mind-blowing day with this hearing. I was, not wanting to compare the two, but, thinking back like when the Grush testimony first happened a couple of years back and like how just earth-shattering that was for a lot of us that are actually paying attention. And, this one I was trying to compare, not trying to compare, but this one has just so much incredible new testimony that this one just blows it out of the water in a different way. Because we brought together, we have a whole new host of people.
Yeah.
And I might as well just like start listing them out.
Cool.
We had United States Air Force veteran Jeff Nuccetelli. He shared a lot of his personal experiences and was very forthright about his feel of our need for emphasizing transparency and witness protection for more people like him to come forward. We had Chief Alexandro Wiggins, who was another witness. And he talked about, again, like the stigma with people in the service coming forward with these types of stories and the procedural and operational. Yes. Sorry. Thank you. Chief of the Navy. Yeah.
In the Navy. Yeah.
We had your good friend and Jeremy's good friend and incredible historian and journalist on this whole subject, the legendary George Knapp, who brought forth, not just testimony, but documents and decades worth of knowledge that was just wonderful. I'm so glad he finally got to be up there with everybody because
he got his flowers.
Yeah. The man has just put in the time and work, and he has just been like he has spearheaded this whole thing, I feel, for decades. Another Air Force veteran, Dylan Borland, will talk about his testimony as well regarding encounters and different incidents, than the other guys, but just, again, shocking. And then I don't want to butcher his name, Joe Spielberger.
Yep.
And he's a senior policy counsel, a project on government oversight. And he talks more about like the oversight of these projects, legal transparency policy side, declassification, whistleblower protections, how the government handles or should handle classified or secret material.
Yep.
So, I watched it in real time, and it was just always exciting for, the second time now seeing your face right behind all these significant key figures. And it's just mind blowing to me, that this is even happening, but then for my good buddy to be right there in the fold with everybody and meeting everybody. And I'm looking forward to hearing what your experience was.
Absolutely. And first of all, the last hearing I went to was in November 13th of last year. And we said that the next hearing, you had to be there. And you should have been at this one. I know it wasn't possible this time, but the next one, you have to be there.
I'm gonna do it. I can't not. It just
You cannot. It's something in, like, obviously we're in America, but it's something here that like we're allowed to do as citizens, and it's amazing to be able to see like your government at work, like actually doing what it's supposed to do, and you get to watch it. It's incredible. And when the subject matter is about, UFOs and triangles coming out of NASA hangars on an Air Force base and, transmedium tic tacs coming in and out of the ocean, to see that, it's so unbelievably cool and exciting. So I look forward to going there with you at the next one. But
yeah,
I know you mentioned the Grush hearing earlier. And I think a lot of people have been like ranking the three hearings so far. You got the Grush one, and then last time you had, Lou Elizondo was kind of the big witness last time, and then with everyone's testimony this time. How would you rank these hearings first to third?
This one now, I think, is the most earth-shattering to me. I just think these guys' testimony, because I feel, I mean, Grush paved the way
Yeah,
in a way. Lou Elizondo's testimony was still incredible, especially like if you were already in the know of the subject and have been kind of following along. But a lot of people came out of that one thinking, a lot of nothing burgers again.
yeah,
So just because of that, I might put that one in third. I mean, but I don't want to place them because this is all so significant.
all
I
important.
mean,
The last one we got the Immaculate Constellation document, which was
true.
huge.
Yeah. See, like I even
Yep, yep,
didn't forget about that, but right now
yeah.
I did.
Each of them have their parts.
But just for us to even be seeing hearings that are so bipartisan that some people, I mean, not enough people, unfortunately, in our government are taking seriously, but a lot of these, people who are actually doing their jobs and putting such an emphasis on this subject matter is great to see. So this one really blew me away, and I only saw it live. I haven't rewatched anything yet.
Me either.
A couple small clips, but I would like to again, just because I know there was just so much information that these people brought forth, and I know there was even additional information that isn't privied to the public. But yeah, I'm anxious to keep learning more.
Can I ask you, like, when you saw these list of witnesses first announced, what were your expectations for this hearing?
I knew it was going to be like more firsthand testimony. Um, I honestly didn't know too much about any of the individuals except George.
Right.
I hadn't heard of any of them except for George. But I know that George and Jeremy had been working with a few of these individuals, if not all of them, for quite a while, right? Like kind of guiding them through the whistleblower protection program and like the right way of coming through on this. And so you could probably speak on that a little bit better about how that process happened, how these individuals got to this point.
Sure. And also, there's a nice little connector between the first hearing and this last one. So in the first hearing, it was Grush, Ryan Graves, and Commander David Fravor. And during Ryan Graves' testimony, he referenced this big red square that came out of the ocean or came from the ocean and at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and kind of hovered over a bunch of Boeing contractors, and then stopped over them, like 30 people, and then shot off to sea. That was Jeff Nuccetelli's story. He's the one that was around for that, and he was the one of the military police that
Didn't even know that.
responded to that. So, and he talked about that
Wow.
in this hearing, but it was mentioned in the first hearing. So it was good to have Jeff be on there. His testimony was great, and then he also added in his own personal account, which we'll talk about at some point. But I believe that these witnesses were we've wanted to have firsthand, hands-on craft, hands-on body people from the beginning, or hands-on, beings or aliens or whatever we're gonna NHI biological whatever the
Yeah.
whatever the
Whatever's.
hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we want. And apparently there was those people that were offered to Congress to testify, and for whatever reason they chose not to, or were I imagine they were influenced not to pick those people or to pick them yet. I don't really know, like, all the back alley deals that are made or how that works, but I think you're given these great names, they have to be approved by whoever. So we didn't get the first hand. Well, we may have. I suspect that at least one of the people who spoke today may be that person. Maybe one of those, like, I touched a craft, but I don't know that for sure. But I have a strong feeling. And I think Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have a lot to do with bringing some witnesses forward. They've been instrumental in all of these so far, and I'd say all of them have been successes. And this one was no exception. I think the testimony in this hearing was pretty astounding if you really listen to it. Um, and I think especially it comes down to what Dylan Borland experienced. But like you said with George Knapp, the wisdom and the knowledge and just the professionalism that he brings when he speaks. I know it's been said by other podcasters and friends of mine that it was such a calming force having him there. And when he spoke, it was just like, there's speakers in the room as well. So his voice kind of booms through the room, and it's like you're at a live taping of Coast to Coast or something. It was so great.
Yes.
And I think that when his name was announced, people were kind of like, why are we having like a journalist and like a newsman as a witness on here? Even though like it's George fucking Knapp. I mean, that's why he's there. But I understand people's like, well, we had Schellenberger at the last one, and he didn't really add a whole lot. And I think people were a little confused as to why George was chosen. But when you see the way he handles himself and how prepared he is, and like 30,000 pages of material right in front of him on his desk, and he knows where everything is. And his recall in this topic is just not many people, not many like journalists have been in the thick of it like he has. So he was like
Yeah, that's a good point. Being
he
able
was,
to remember
yeah,
instances and the people that he was spoken to in Russia in the 80s is
yeah.
pretty phenomenal. I mean, he's a pretty amazing individual.
He ran it like a boss. It was pretty great.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. But yeah, I could see like where, from an outside perspective, when he's just like, coming from this Las Vegas news station, like, wait, who's this guy? Like, why are we talking to him? And then he just lays out some shit that was, again, mind-boggling. And
And he
I
dropped
can't,
some
I,
names too. Yeah, he dropped some
yeah, and
bombs.
I am just so curious as to all the other stuff that we didn't get to see or hear, what he submitted to them.
Yep, he brought
I mean,
the Thread 3 documents, which are those basically the Russian UFO program, which we've had people be able to see that stuff for a while, but I guess he submitted a lot more than we've ever seen publicly before, which I haven't even gone through yet. I mean, you saw a stack of pages. It was like a book's worth of information, but
yeah.
um, it was great. So, like, when you're watching, what stood out to you, and how did this hearing for you feel different than the last one, or did it feel different than the last one?
Well, I love that they shared like these personal experiences too, because like with Grush, he was appointed a position to study these programs, and during that process, he had firsthand accounts with witnesses, like not firsthand accounts with craft and that type of thing, but some of these stories of following this orb in a whole triangle the size of a football field that's materialized in front of them and was there not just for a few seconds, but for several minutes, like 15 minutes, I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? And this is a United States Air Force active duty member.
Yeah.
Again, and with so many witnesses and just these firsthand accounts where we're finally hearing these from these legitimate voices. I think that's the one thing that will finally change the game. They're these, it's not crazy people in the middle of nowhere that are just looking for attention or whatever it is. Like this is, this is serious talk from serious people. So I think it's actually like moving the needle. And like we were talking about even before we came on here, we were discussing even Representative Luna. She was chatting with Joe Rogan, and she was, kind of not spilling the beans, but talking pretty deeply on a lot of this type of stuff, where they're starting to actually see some movement back from a lot of these government contractors, these dark government contractors that have had these reverse engineering programs and, have a little bit more in-depth knowledge on these things than anybody else in the world. So we're actually, because of these guys and their testimony and these stories, we're actually starting to see some movement for the first time of some transparency and some disclosure, when I think that's the most important part of all this, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of went down a rabbit, like I got kind of sidetracked there for a minute, but
That's why we're
felt that it
here.
was really important that, these guys, not just their testimony of, of things that they were aware of and like the spaces that they worked in, but their personal experiences that they shared were just so dramatic and just,
The
you can't.
witnesses, I thought that they were A plus. I think everyone, even Spielberger, who was added the day before, and people are like, who who is this? Who is this person? Like, why is this guy
Hmm.
here? Um, I believe he was a Democratic addition to the hearing the last day or so. I guess some of the Democratic people kind of asked for him to come in. Everyone agreed because his big thing was pushing whistleblower protections, which is a very very important part of this whole topic, and it's something that came up in the hearing a couple times where people felt like they were told to go bring their concerns to Arrow, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is like the UFO um, uh, catch-all kind of group that people were told to go. If you have concerns, you're a whistleblower, you're concerned, come reveal what you have to Arrow, and they'll help you out. But what it turns
Hmm.
out is Arrow was a place. It was like a they call it a flypaper operation where you're a whistleblower. You go and you talk to Arrow and say, I work here. These are my bosses or whoever. These are my concerns. And Arrow is supposed to protect you. But what they were actually doing is going back and telling your boss that you came forward to whistleblow on shit that was going on. So it was a trap, which is what led to people like Rush and people like Dylan Borland getting these reprisals and having, basically your country kind of declare war on you, which is a very gross reality that these people are dealing with. So Spielberger was there to really talk a lot about the importance of protecting these people and protecting their testimonies, and if they do lose their jobs, like finding a way to make it so that these people don't lose their pensions, don't lose their clearances, don't lose all these things that they worked very hard to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't imagine that feeling of your government, attacking you for coming out on this type of stuff, and the dangers that that can include, especially like when you're dealing with some of these dark contractors that have no oversight and haven't had any oversight for decades. Like
Yeah,
the power that that wields and the things that they're able to do. That's
they can
just
do it. Basically, what I'm realizing is they can do whatever they want.
oh yeah,
Whatever they
yeah. If they
want.
have no oversight, there's no law that applies to them
People
anymore.
having their medical records altered. Um, really, really weird stuff, which holds back benefits and all kinds of just
And I feel
really.
that might be like some of the more innocent stuff because we know people have
It gets,
vanished.
yeah.
You know, this.
People do get disappeared,
Yeah.
and I feel very very fortunate. The night before the hearing, I was able to spend time with all the witnesses, and finally got to meet Matthew Brown, who was the author of the Immaculate Constellation the document. And him and I have been talking back and forth for a few months now, and it was nice to finally meet him. And I will say he is one of the kindest, most like warm-hearted, sincere people I've ever met. And the fact that he's been struggling since coming forward really, really bums me out. And I think
Mm,
that there's a lot of people like him, which is why it's so important that we're talking about it and doing these shows and having these hearings because like,
yeah.
you give your life to your country and they repay you by destroying your life. Um, it's fucked up and it's gotta stop.
Is there a separation there though? I mean, we say, like the country is attacking these individuals, but is it really like our it's not like our known government, it's this
No,
secretive
of course.
government.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
I guess you can't like, say like, the president and Congress are coming after me because they're the
Of
ones trying
course.
to pull this stuff out and yeah.
Yes.
Just wanted to, I guess, clarify
No,
that.
no, you're right. I'm not declaring war on
But
the
in a way that's scarier again
yes.
because we don't know who these people are and what their absolute capabilities are because my God,
Sure.
we're learning not just the powers that they have or, you know, they don't have, there's no recourse against them. But the information that they have access to and the technology and what they're going to do with it, because it's gone back so many decades that these, individuals, companies have had these contracts. Like it's so separate from government now. Like, are they ever going to hand it over? If like,
That I had this conversation. I mean, I had this conversation a lot, but the night the night of the hearing, I ended up going to dinner afterwards with I do this every Friday afternoon. I do a live stream with the Night Shift podcast. This maybe my favorite UFO
so
related show out there. Just and those guys have become really really good friends. And we went to dinner with those two dudes, UAP Gerb, who does maybe the best long form documentaries on the subject on YouTube. This guy and his recall, his like photographic recall of everything he's ever learned about the topic and which companies are paying who. I mean, just astounding. Went to dinner with
wow.
him and a couple other friends. This guy Kermit, who I've been talking to for a long time. Rob Jones, who's like a just a kind of a brilliant engineer type guy. And we had this talk about um, what happens like if what let's say that gets to a point where the president of the United States can take his military into an underground base where they claim that there are, let's say, a flying saucer in a hangar,
Mhm.
and they can tell you exactly where it is. You march down there and you bring your army and a bunch of guys with guns. First of all, I think that there would be a firefight long before you got to that point. And I had this realization. I was on edibles, to be fair. I was stoned when I realized this, but my worry now is that we'll never see it. And it's a frustrating reality I kind of came to, but let me know if you agree with this or disagree. So let's say the president is marching down or he sends his guys to go find this saucer. I think the last thing that would happen is that technology, I think, would be used against our own military to like evaporate everybody there. And I think the people in charge of these programs would take off in these machines or do whatever. And that is the new breakaway civilization. That's the new hyper militant government. The new faction of the world that we have to deal with is the people that actually have either reverse engineered or learned how to operate these craft. Is that insane or does this make sense to you at all?
I think that could be one of multiple different scenarios that could. I think there's several that could exist at the same time because I just think the more I learn about this stuff personally, and I do my best to try to keep up with a lot of these things, and I hear just so many different stories and of like it's not just like flying saucers, it's not just extraterrestrial biologics, it's this whole, for lack of a better term, spiritual realm and like this crossover that our species seems to start having with them to where like these underground bases or underwater bases could be a myriad of a million different things. Like how Representative Luna, I'm going to bring it back to Representative Luna. And, I encourage people to maybe even check out, it was just last month on Joe Rogan. And I don't necessarily like to promote
What was it
his
on? What
show.
show?
It was on Rogan's podcast, Joe Rogan's podcast.
Who's Joe Rogan? I've heard of
Some
him.
hack, some
Yeah.
hack.
Yeah.
But where she was, discussing these things, like they go by a whole different level of physics that we just can't even understand. She, equated it to us taking a modern iPhone and going back to the Stone Age and handing it, to somebody there and being like back engineer this. Like it's so far beyond that we can't because it even like breaks the laws of time and space, and it's just they don't live on our plane, but we're having some type of interaction with these, and there seems to be some type of ongoing interaction with these interdimensional creatures, whatever it might be. So I just think that like, the Bob Lazar story and the bunkers out in the desert with spaceships that were back engineering is one story.
Yep.
And I could see a scenario like that happening where, yeah, these people aren't going to give up this information easy. They've had it for decades. When you hold on to a secret that big, you're going to do whatever it takes to hold on to it and own it. And, why would you give that up? I can't even imagine the brains of some humans on this planet and the information that they possess is just, for lack of a better term, astronomical. It's insane what some people, Homo sapiens on this planet, are aware of and what they have at their fingertips.
Yeah.
So that, whether it's being able to fly away in a flying saucer or tap into this new realm, and we have people admitting that there's treaties with creatures, and we have bases with them. I don't know, man. It sounds so sci-fi, but there's all the the more I research it, the more I'm getting convinced of all of it. And I know that's kind of like the classic story of any conspiracy, but this isn't a conspiracy anymore.
Conspiracy theories are conspiracy theories for a reason, because
that's why these people are coming forward, and that's why we have congressional hearings about this stuff now. It's not open for debate anymore of if these things are happening, they're happening, and they're way more beyond what we could ever even thought of a couple years ago.
Yep. Completely.
And so that's what is hard for me to even create one scenario in my brain of oh yeah, that could be our breakaway civilization. 100% I could see that. I could see that happening right now. That might have already happened. We don't even know.
That's kind of the kind of thing that in Matt Brown's 3-part interview with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp on Weaponized, he kind of alluded to that we've kind of that we've been left behind, humanity and civilization has been left behind by these groups, or a group that has harnessed that technology and maybe have possibly broken away and are doing their own thing. That breakaway thing may already have happened. And historically I would think that that's just insane to even consider, but the world is weird, and I think we're all learning every day just kind of how weird things are, and I don't think we're even scratching the surface of how weird things can get. So, yeah, I'm not dismissing any of that, of any of those thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think throughout all this, we're realizing that there's even more here in our own. We have this version of reality where we live in this 3D world that. There's so much here that we're just not even seeing, that's right in front of us, that through the help of technology or a newer understanding of things, or these other interdimensional creatures, whatever it might be, are giving some of these people a window into it. I don't know. But then it makes me wonder, why are these interdimensional beings sticking with these individuals, these black op corporations and whatnot? Why haven't they made their presence be known? There has to be some reason for that, because they obviously have the power. I don't know. There's just a lot of question marks still, and it frustrates the hell out of me.
Is interdimensional the term that you're most comfortable with now?
God, I don't know. I'm not I'm not comfortable with any of it. It's all so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But obviously there are things within our realm that are being seen. That's a fact. There are our 3D bodies are able to see a lot of these craft orbs, things that are blowing our minds.
Yep.
But I think there's another level to it, that it really excites me, the idea that some people are able to experience this, and not just Sky Watchers where they're summoning these craft and that type of thing, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these people who might be experiencing this other level of, well, I don't even know what to call it, but this interdimensional experience where they're bypassing time and space, and they're experiencing a whole new set of laws of physics.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of this is touching on, and a lot of these people who are exposed to a lot of this, including Representative Luna and a lot of these other people, where they're just saying it's so far beyond the nuts and bolts now. And that's what really intrigues me anyway. The nuts and bolts thing, it goes back so far, and we've known about spaceships and flying saucers for so long. The thing that really excites me right now is this next level of the human experience. And if we're going to actually get to experience it, or if these fuckers that have been in control of all this stuff for decades are the only ones, and they just took off with it and they're in another fucking galaxy having a blast. And here we are, left with our current situation.
Yeah, sure. You want to go through a little bit of the testimony and talk and kind of break down some of that stuff?
Hell yeah.
As I began walking towards the light, towards the flight line and the track. The light then flies across the base, across the flight line, and as it flies to me, a triangle manifests around the light. I can't tell you if it's active camouflage. I can't tell you if it appeared around the light, but I can tell you that it was a white light, and then it was a triangle. It stopped about 100 feet in front of me and approximately 100 feet above me. My telephone got extremely hot, completely froze, dead. I remember how thick it was. It was between 1 to 2 stories thick, equilateral triangle. I could never see the top of it, and the edges were 90 degrees. There were 4 lights in total, 1 light on each corner and a larger light in the center, 2 to 3 times the size of the corner lights. But what was really odd was the outside. The best way to describe it is like looking at a James Webb telescope picture where you have the colors and then the black background. So the craft itself was this black metallic flake paint, but on top of the craft was this gold lava, plasma, some type of fluid going over and around the craft. I'm under this for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then the center light flashes 2 to 3 times, no sound, immediately shoots up to commercial jet level minimum, in my opinion, and I immediately feel static electricity all over my body, and then I smell the smell of after a thunderstorm or lightning storm, that really strong summer thunderstorm smell. Gets up to flight level. I'm trying to get my phone reset, and I can only see the center light at this point. If I didn't actually see it take off, I would have thought it was a star. And then it hovers up there, and it begins to slowly move due east out over the Atlantic Ocean. I finally got my phone reset. The entire thing was about, from the time I saw the light pop up near the hangar until it took off out over the ocean, was about 15 minutes.
I mean, come on. So, did he describe in that the lava? How it
Well,
looked
yeah, I mean,
lava?
like the gold coloration.
Yes,
Yeah.
That guy is so legitimate to me, and there's something that I think it showed up on when you're watching the hearing. Let me know if it did or not. So when he read his opening statement, which I thought was very, very powerful, because it started with like this call to action of like we need to do this, work on this now. Could you pick up on TV that like afterwards he was like shaking and like you saw that?
That was the first thing I wanted to bring up just now when we
Great. Please.
watched it, was just you can tell how tense and scared he is. I mean, he's shaken up. Telling us, I mean, obviously there's going to be nerves involved with speaking, in a situation like that on live TV, but my God, you can just tell that this shook him up. This is a life-changing scenario. I mean, changes everything about your thought process of the world and like where we are and what we're doing. So yeah, I mean, kudos to him, for coming forward and being so well prepared and delivering it so well.
Have you ever
Shocking.
Have you ever been in a fist fight or thought you were going to get into a fight?
No.
No. Okay. Well,
sorry.
No, good. Lucky you. So like when you know that you're going to get into a fight or you know that things are going to happen, you start getting this feeling in your stomach and your body gets overloaded with like adrenaline and just like I call it the fight butterflies, where you're like, oh God, like shit's going to happen. And it makes you kind of have that reaction that he had. And like his shaking was it was uncontrollable. Like his body was responding like viscerally to what he was talking about. And you said fear. I think it was fear, and it was less about fear of speaking and more about like I know that he's been very, very worried for a while about his legitimate, about his well-being because of his ICIG whistleblower complaint and him knowing that the people he was speaking on, the people who are doing wrongdoings, he knew that they knew that he had spoke, and he's been scared. So it like building up to this hearing, I think for people like him and people like David Grush, they decide to come forward because it's kind of the best way to protect yourself, to protect like your
Yeah.
your life is to speak on it.
Right. Do we know if like he has been contacted, like or threatened or any of those things?
Did he say anything in the hearing?
Yeah.
He did.
No, I don't know. I was asking you if he'd mentioned anything like that because I don't remember.
I don't remember if he said anything in the hearing, so I don't want to comment
Right.
on that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I would assume so. I mean, his claims are overwhelming when you really think about like what like we're talking about a triangle that makes no
Material.
sound, that goes from 100 feet to at least 30,000 feet in seconds and doesn't disturb anything on the ground. There's no wind disturbance, no dust flies up. That power, which we're hearing about all the time now, is, as far as we know, like people like you and I, that power does not exist. That kind of propulsion is not, we can't do that. But
Yeah.
do you
I
think,
don't even want to call it propulsion anymore
yeah, because it's,
because I just keep thinking about like, these creatures, these NHI that live by a different set of physical rules.
sure,
If there even are any rules. I mean, it's so far out there, but like, yeah, it explains all the movements that all these different crafts can make. And so like, I don't even like, there's no sense in like trying to like look for the engine, look for the contrails or whatever. Like,
we've heard enough times that there's no engine. We've heard enough times that there's no exhaust. There's no goddamn steering wheel. You know what I mean? There's not like a gear. It's not like a transmission on these things. So now the big speculation with his testimony is, and I'm curious what you think. Do you think what he saw was an ARV, an alien reproduction vehicle? Do you think it was an actual NHI vehicle being piloted by NHI? Or do you think it was an NHI vehicle being piloted by us?
I don't know. I don't know. I think all thing. I mean, I think knowing what we know right now, that any of those are possible, right?
What do you think is most likely? Like what is like when you what does your gut tell you, or does your gut not speak to you?
I can tell you what would be the most frustrating of those is that we've either back engineered it or we're operating this thing. Like just other dudes and cats out there that you know still eating shit are manning these unbelievable craft and then just going about their day and living amongst us. Like what the fuck?
So
Like
um,
that I can't I that almost seems more far-fetched to me at this point than NHI controlling these things, or whether they're biological things in themselves or whatever the hell ever. I don't know.
that's another thing. Like the idea
And
of
well,
a living craft, and that kind of goes to the video that Rep Burleson showed in the hearing.
incredible.
So I was fortunate to see that the night before the hearing, and that was a video that Jeremy and George had reported on within the last year or so, because the event happened. So we're talking about the missile that apparently they claimed bounced off of whatever this thing was, which I no
Yeah.
longer think it bounced off of anything personally. But that happened October 30th, 2024, over Yemen. Um, the Usually when you see those videos, there's a bunch of like information on the outside with like, military speak, which I don't understand. All the information points. It's been scrubbed from that video. When you first saw that video, walk us through how you felt, what you thought, just kind of your experience with that video.
Um, well, again, like maybe I would just like want to back up and even explain the video
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
everybody who hasn't even seen it yet, which is just it's another radar video.
FLIR.
It's FLIR, yeah,
Yep.
forward-looking infrared of was it a tic-tac tape shaped object? Kind of, it was like a orb.
Kinda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
moving at a high rate of speed, and they launched a missile at it, which
Hmm.
seems like it exploded around it and kind of rattled it, but it didn't lose trajectory or speed or anything. It just kept fucking going, which is just insane. And this is our highest level of radar that we have right now, as far as I know. I mean, for traditional military use, I guess, right now. So I don't know. I don't know if it had a force field around it. If it, because it looked like there was pieces that flew off. I'd have to look at it again, but it looked like the pieces of the missile,
I'll text it to you
it
right now.
exploded, but the craft or orb or whatever it is itself just kept moving and didn't seem too bothered by it.
See, I don't think the warhead went off. I don't think it was a Hellfire missile, which is apparently only like a 100-pound missile. Very powerful, but it's not like a huge missile. I just texted you the video if you wanna take a look at it again. And I want to tell you my speculation. Actually, here's another one. This one's a little bit slower. I have a feeling. My gut is telling me that that what we saw, what it hit, I think it was some kind of liquid or like plasma type craft or something, because I think the missile went through it. And if you look at the videos I just sent you, it kind of like reacts like mercury, where how mercury, when you split it in half,
Does
it
that
quickly,
warble?
yep. And then the three things that came out of it, which I don't know, people seem to think that the craft dropped those three things that keep up with the speed of whatever's going on, that stay with it. All of those pop out and go to the same shape immediately. So I feel like what we're looking at least for me, I'm most comfortable now with the idea of this thing being some kind of liquid, almost like the T-1000 from Terminator, a little bit. A lot of people, a lot of the debunking going around is that it's a balloon, just like the balloons from February 2023. Remember that day we were watching the Super Bowl and those things were getting shot down. A lot of balloon talk. Some people saying it's a craft that something bounced off of, but I'm curious if you see what I mean as far as it possibly being like a possibly liquid. It looks like mercury to me.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the missile come in now, so I'm running through it in slow-mo. Yeah.
Because the thing kind of like wobbles and the three pieces come out of it, and those things go right to the same shape.
Yeah, you're right. It's very much like how mercury reacts.
You know what I mean? So I put that on Twitter, and the tweet has gone a little bit insane, actually. As of the taping of this,
Oh, that close-up video I haven't seen. That's wild.
yeah,
So yeah, it does like seemingly drop like three pieces of itself, but like you can see
Right?
like its membrane, the outer membrane of it kind of breaks.
kinda.
Yeah, bizarre. It's just fucking crazy.
So
But see, like
I put
that's the other. When looking at these things, so we have like an orb like this that like responds to a Hellfire missile, Hellfire,
Hellfire.
missile, and it acts like a blob of mercury, but still moving seemingly intelligently. And then we have triangular craft the size of a football field. And all of these sightings and all of these things are kind of coming around. And they're so diverse and so just foreign from each other. But they're all dramatically amazing that are, switching up our whole worldview right now. So I don't know, man. Like it's kind of like a lot to go over in a way. Because like I feel like each one of these is its own podcast.
Right. Yeah, of course.
It's like that feels like that could be like a biological creature of sorts that we just are unaware of.
I put a tweet out about that thing, just saying like my feeling is that this thing is liquid. As of right now, that tweet has been looked at 231,000 times.
Nice.
It had a little bit of it got some reactions, but there's probably a couple hundred people that commented it's plasma or some kind of plasmoid, which is something that we're learning more about, these plasmoids, these like possibly somewhat intelligent blobs of plasma in space that seem to be somewhat intelligent. I mean, this is insanity to even talk about, but there's a lot of talk about these plasmoids, and we got to be open to it.
I don't know. I think it's insane to not talk about this stuff anymore.
Right.
Like the hell evidence is there.
Right.
You know.
We got to talk about what it's not as much as what it is. But if you've seen the movie Nope, about how,
Yep.
The spoiler alert, but the big reveal in Nope is that this UFO was its own animal. It was its own living thing. And I think it's good for us to start getting a little bit comfortable with that possibility, at least. We can't take it off the board yet.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like where I just think that there's not a disconnect, because like it's all mind blowing, but they're all like, it's so dramatically different than Bob Lazar's, sport model flying saucer in a bunker.
Yeah,
Like,
we're
I
hearing
feel
less.
like
We're hearing
these are
less
like-
about. We're hearing less about flying saucers in recent years, and more about these like orbs and like these glowing crosses and like weird, like the Metapod, which is a video of this weird like little UFO. Looks like it had a little guy inside just going through the sky and like rotating. Like,
yeah.
what?
Like, are we just so unbelievably sheltered to the natural world around us? Like, that we're just overlooking this whole other part of the animal kingdom, but then also, like,
Dude, I don't even know
The
if
only
we
thing
live
that
in
makes
base
sense is-
reality. I don't even know what reality.
I'm
is.
yeah,
You know?
I know. I very much feel like we're in a simulation a lot of the time, but uh, there's just too many different things happening. Too many different, like, these are so disconnected, these different experiences that are even being brought forth to Congress. Like,
Mhm.
in the same congressional hearing, these are dramatically different things we're talking about, but
Yeah.
it's all part of the same
You know,
storyline right now, just because they're beyond us. It's mind blowing, and it's shaking
Jeff-
up our whole worldview.
you're right. Air Force Jeff Nuccetelli told the story about the giant red square, which is the size of a football field. Everything's the size of a football field or bigger, coming out of the water or coming in from the water, going over the Boeing, whatever. But he also tells a story about after that, he had an experience in his backyard with friends of his
Right.
with this again a glowing orb. And I want to play that clip, and we can discuss that as well.
My next move, I went into my house after it left. I made sure no one had been abducted, and I picked up the landline. I called the Security Forces Command Center. I reported it. I requested that they give me a call back and make notifications up the chain of command. I got a call back in about 15 minutes. They reported that the weather station reported no balloons or aircraft, nothing on radar, no aircraft inbound or outbound. So I got that notification. And then within the following day or two, me and the other witnesses wrote statements. We prepared a report, and then we filed all that information.
Madam Chairman, thank you for your indulgence in my questioning, and thank you for continuing to lead on this subject. What do you and your friends think about it today? You all have talked about it. Yeah. I mean, so what do you think about your experience as a collective group? That'll be my last question, Madam Chairwoman.
I mean, we've been talking about this for 20 years. We don't know what we saw. What we saw changed our lives and the way we think about everything. It was incredibly profound. The object I saw, I don't even know if it was an object. It was a light. It was an orb. It didn't look like a craft, but it did look solid. And that's what we talk about. We noticed the object, and this was a pattern across all the encounters. Someone would see a light. They would pay attention to the light. And then the object responds. It performs for you. And then they come down and they investigate you. So it's almost like they're curious. So that's the thing we primarily talk about. Why did it come after we noticed it? Maybe it noticed us after we noticed it.
So, what he's talking about reminds me very much about my experience of when, put my thoughts in the universe, asked to see something, and I got a voice in my head told me to open my eyes and look to the right. I saw basically what he described. It was a light that was like not a craft, but felt kind of solid or close to solid, and it definitely was aware. It just there's too many of these. People recount this too many times for it to be like nothing. Like this is there's a theme here, and it's happening to all walks of life. And I'm just so happy it's being talked about in Congress. It's wild. Also, I think he might be one of the first people to mention abductions in a congressional hearing. And he also made a passing comment, maybe in his opening statement, about consciousness and the connection between consciousness and whatever we're talking about. So that was cool to get that kind of on the record. Yeah, that guy's cool. I spent a lot of time with him, and he's going to be doing this show with us at some point.
Awesome. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
he's a great dude, and we had some really cool kind of like deep conversations about this topic, just hanging out socially. And yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot going on.
A lot going on. Yeah, it's too much to wrap into one conversation, like without ignoring a large portion of it. I like even when the hearings happened the other day, I was out on the boat with my dad, and like I had it playing on my phone. I'm like, oh, this is my buddy Dan. He's right there, and my dad's like, oh, holy shit! And my dad even shared a story. And I mentioned to you when he was in the military, and they saw a craft of sorts, and I'm like, whoa,
Can you tell the story?
sure, yeah.
People would like it.
I'm already forgetting all the details, but he was with his team. My dad was in SEAL team, and I believe they were in Virginia. No, they were in California, and that they saw a craft kind of over the hill that defied explanation, and that was kind of like, I'm giving you the truncated story just because I can't remember all of it, but we'll get the full story from him sometime.
Please.
But my dad, was like, he's kind of a stoic individual in the way that he wouldn't necessarily like divulge that type of storyline. And if he didn't know that I was into this and had a podcast, my buddy, and we were listening to the hearing, and just even then, just trying to wrap up all of this into one hearing. Like, this conversation is too big for just these hearings. I mean, they're dramatic and incredible, and I love that they're happening, and I love all this is unfolding, but it's so huge, all this type of stuff, that like it needs to be talked about by everybody at every chance that we can get. Like, we need
It's the
to
biggest topic in human history.
yeah, because it's not just about flying saucers anymore, or even just orbs, or like people recounting these old experiences and looking at FLIR videos. It's this whole movement of us understanding our world a little bit more, and like what else is out there,
And our place in it. Yeah.
in our place in it, because we're, like the story that he just shared in his testimony in his backyard is like, okay, him and all these individuals just experienced something life-changing. Like, I want to experience that, but I'm kind of terrified too. You've had an incredible experience. I have not in that regard, and I would love to. I'm all alone on an island right now up in the Northwest. So I don't know if I want to right now, but like, why haven't any of these things, NHI, whatever it might be, like made more of a significant, entrance, or made themselves be known more? Like, is it because like they literally just have zero ego, like that doesn't live in their world, and they don't need to be known by everybody, that they're just kind of floating around and giving everybody a tiny little taste? Like, it's like the whole thing is a weird game,
The game thing is funny because, people have referred to them as tricksters, that there's a trickster element.
Yeah,
where they
I
kind
remember
of-
you saying that word once, and
Yeah.
that stuck with me. Yeah.
Jacques Vallée has called them tricksters quite a bit. But they're sometimes they don't care if you see them, and sometimes they do. And I want to know why they care if you do. Like people say, ultimately, NHI are the architects of the secrecy. Like the government can hide stuff as much as they want, but if these things wanted to say hello to everybody, they can just do it whenever they want. You know, there could be a mass landing or a Phoenix Lights, another Phoenix Lights, another, you know, there's been some incredible sightings another aerial school.
Yeah.
Could have, if that happened now with every kid has a cell phone, you know, I don't know.
Well, I
think
guess
we're,
it's like another good way of like kind of explaining this is like, uncontacted tribes in the Amazon or in
yeah, of
wherever it
course.
might be,
Yeah.
where
The
they
Sentinel
freak out
Islands.
seeing like a plane goes overhead and they're like, what the fuck is that? All this type of thing. Like there's a whole world around them that they're completely unaware of. There's a whole universe around us that we're completely unaware of. And like, we're just so confident that we think we know so much when we don't even know what's going on in our oceans.
Like I would say, 100
So
years
like
ago, we thought we were smart. We didn't know dick.
we still
You know?
like apparently
Yeah.
we still don't know dick. And
That's
like
what I mean. Yeah.
the classic, I think, I don't know if it was Carl Sagan or whoever, but like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know type of thing. Like when they were talking about string theory or whatever it was. But I think now we're getting to that point where all this information is coming in because we can share information so well and all these different stories of all these unbelievable different experiences in life that are dramatically different. It's not just like one phenomena of UFOs or UAPs or whatever, or NHI or craft. It's this whole new animal kingdom or whatever it is that we're finally able to share with each other because we have the technology to share it all. And
Yeah.
I think like it's because of the information age and us being able to tell each other stories. And now that the stigma is slowly wearing off, that people are down to start sharing these stories. Like, do you think like we'd all be experiencing the same thing? Like if 500 years ago, we had the ability to share, we had the internet instantly and had the ability to share all of our stories with everybody around the world. Do you think all these things were happening to people back then?
Great question. I do. I think if you look back at,
Me too.
for all of recorded human history, you look at cave drawings all over the world before anyone had explored other continents, before there was like transatlantic or transcontinental travel or whatever, these cave drawings of these things that are bigger than people or
Yeah.
small with the eyes, with the three fingers, with stuff in the sky with lights coming out of it. I don't know. I find it hard to believe that all of these random pockets around the world would happen to draw the same images that clearly are not humans, because they would also draw humans. They would draw humans surrounding like this thing that
Mhm.
had the classic kind of gray
Mhm.
eyes or some kind of bug or something, and showing these cave drawings and paintings where there's craft in the sky before we had long before we had flight, and like things in the sky with people or things in, like, there's just, I don't know. I think it's been happening long before we were here, and that I think
I
that's
think they
kind
might
of
be
where
more.
yeah.
I think they might just be more interested in us now that we have more shit going on and we have the capabilities of destroying the planet.
Yeah, we're
Maybe,
dangerous.
yeah, we're horrible, and so maybe they're more present now. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like all of it is part of the natural order.
Hmm. I agree.
Um,
um I want to ask you one more thing about or a couple more things about the hearings. We hear a lot about pushback, like Dylan Borland talked about pushback. Jeff Nuccetelli talked about just like sending things up the ladder and just not really hearing back. But then you
yeah,
had Alexandro Wiggins, Chief Wiggins, who when asked if he received any pushback from the Navy with his claim, because he's the only person who's testified who's active duty. Like he's in the Navy now. He's an active
hmm
chief in the Navy now, which is crazy that we're able to have something like that on there. And he said that he received zero pushback from anyone about speaking about what he has experienced. Um, do you have any idea why it seems like the Navy is sort of kind of the more uh, um, helpful or the most what's the word I'm looking
Progressive
for?
in this area.
Yeah, I guess like more so than the Air Force, more so than other arms of the military. The Navy seems to be the most sort of transparent so far. And also that's where the majority of a lot of these sightings have happened is out over the oceans. And I know that I've been able to speak to three Navy folks so far, and all of them have said that these things happen every day. And I'm not saying like once a week or twice a week. When they're doing exercises on the West Coast and the East Coast, they see these things every day. Think about that for a second. For at least the last 20 plus years, every day, to the point that they're told, just ignore it. Just go on with your work. Do not engage. Like, do not look at the man behind the curtain. Just go about your business.
I think I'm more shocked that that's just not talked about broadly than it happening to them every day. Sorry, my stomach's not growling. My dog.
Oh no, Murphy has our audience really met Murphy? I know he's been in the studio when we recorded, but Murphy, what are your thoughts on NHI? I mean, you're holding NHI right now.
He's our own little alien.
He's the best.
He's a sorry, he's kind of driving me crazy right now.
No, let me hang.
Yeah, I'm more surprised that that conversation just isn't being widely shared. Like it's something so dramatic. Why don't people want to talk about it? Why don't people want to talk about this? That's like the question. I know like I keep kind of drifting away because we weren't really wanted to cover a lot more of the hearing because it was just so incredible. But it's like just bringing up this general thought that like, why doesn't the average person want to talk about this?
I wonder this. I wonder this every single day, because you and I are in. We have different friend groups. But we also share one pretty big friend group. You and I, and the vast majority of people in our shared friend group have no interest in this, and I mean like zero interest. To the point where like I'll try to ask like, hey, did you guys watch the hearing? Oh no, I was watching Desperate Housewives or Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's like, what? How, why? What,
I think you just named one of our friends without naming them.
I named a few of them, by the way. I named a few.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay. That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing. I don't know. Are we stupid? Like, I feel like there's nothing more interesting than this topic. And I'm glad that this one's being covered more than the last one was. Granted, most of it is with the video clip, which is like, the missile video, which is like,
but no, a lot of news stations, like, I'm not gonna say properly, but they covered the whole
testimonies
hearing. Yeah, like CBS actually
ran the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yep. So bravo. I mean, this is something that needs to happen more. Because again, it's a big story for a lot of reasons, but for the average person to get involved, who maybe you don't like UFOs, maybe that's not your thing, but behind it all is misappropriation of funds to the tune of trillions of dollars, which can get like we talk about how we can't afford healthcare. We can't we can't have like a healthy school lunch program. We're fucking with people's like Medicaid and stuff, like because we can't afford it. Like we can afford it, first of all. So misappropriation of funds, things being hidden from congressional oversight, and maybe most importantly at the moment is treating our own armed services people and veterans and people who like signed up on purpose for themselves to dedicate their lives to protecting the country, and punishing them for things that they were told to do, for doing their jobs and leaving people behind. And it kind of reminds me of like after 9/11, when all those first responders were coming down with all these cancers and these horrible ailments, and taking almost 20 years to get those people taken care of and to get them properly cared for. The ones that didn't, of course, die from their injuries. And I think in coming hearings, I would love to start hearing from people who have been injured by being in close proximity with the phenomenon and sustaining injuries working for the government. People
Yeah.
like John Burroughs, who was part of the Rendlesham Forest incident where he touched a craft, and he's had all kinds of health problems since then. Finally acknowledged within the last year that he sustained injuries due to coming in contact. That's a major step forward.
Crazy. Yeah. And
and
that's public knowledge now, but just
Yeah,
general public just doesn't grab onto it.
and it's my understanding that there's quite a few people like him who have sustained injuries due to this. And I would also love at some point if we started having hearings that included abductees and contactees. I think this is the kind of the last thing that we'll get to because it's the hardest one to talk about. And if you're one of the architects of the secrecy, how do you admit to people that we have sort of allowed abductions, or at least we're aware of them, and there's nothing we can do about it? How do you tell the American people that? But we should tell them that this is something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's too much there that's not a reality. I'm all in on the abduction thing. I'm all in on injuries sustained by people being in proximity, and that's something I want to see in hearings coming up. What kind of stuff do you want to see?
Well, God, I mean, again, everything. I want to hear more recognition of the whole. Again, I don't want to use the term spiritual, but this whole world, like the whole ethos of this whole grouping of phenomena is as a whole, and the effect that it has on the human experience. I love that angle of it. The nuts and bolts to me, of course, is very interesting.
Yeah.
And whatnot, but I just think that there's so much more to it than that really strikes a chord with me. But I wanted to ask you really quick, just going back to this hearing and you being there, what was the most significant thing that you pulled away from it?
The the sincerity of all the witnesses. But I think Dylan's testimony to me was the most important, and it's my understanding that he has a lot more to say, and we will be hearing more from him. And the general feeling around those people is that he's someone who's very important.
Yeah.
So some have even said that what Rush brought to the table was huge. Dylan might be a more important person than David Rush, which says a lot.
Yeah.
And I think people need to really pay attention to him, and we need to find a way to help these people. I know that Matt Brown, lost his job due to coming forward, and it's a struggle. It's hard for these people to make a living when you went to school and you set your whole life towards this one thing. Like Matt Brown was he wanted to work in the intelligence community, and now he can never do that again. And he started a Substack, so you can subscribe to his Substack. And if you want to help whistleblowers, this is one huge way to do it. Helping them financially. I mean, these are people who not only risk their lives, but literally turned over their careers for you and for me and for the American people and for the world to talk about what they know. So we need to find a way to help these people once they come forward. And Dylan is one of those people as well. Hopefully they'll find a way to take care of him. But
yeah, that's a really big point, and maybe something that we should talk about further at some point.
Yep.
Is that type of sacrifice and humanizing these people's stories, because we live in such an age where we just hear dramatic stories of people going through suffering and all these different things all the time that we almost become just numb to it all.
Yeah.
But these are real humans with families that literally gave up everything to hand over something where 99% of the public just isn't even listening. When wait, I just want to shake everybody. Do you hear what this guy is saying? The shit that this guy just said under oath and he's, one of them's active military, and these other guys were active in the military. Like, can we just like pause and understand that? Because like even when I was with my dad on the boat, like I felt like I had to turn it down, like because he wasn't paying attention, because like we were fishing, and like that's fine. Like everybody, like it's not for everybody. I know it's a lot, and people are kind of scared to talk about this stuff. But like when people are making these extreme dedications and sacrifices, come on, like let's, yeah, the least that we can do is listen to them. But
Words out of my mouth.
Yes. But if we can help them out too, then I love that. And if we could, yeah, maybe we'll share that link in the description of this video to help
That'd be
them out.
great. Yes. And also he's saying some cool stuff. Matt Brown in his Substack is very, very intelligent man, and cares very much about what's happening. And I hope to hear more from him as well. We shall wrap up shortly, but I thought we should end on just talking for a few minutes about George Knapp. I don't know about you, but I definitely, being in the room and seeing him conduct himself the way he did, and not only because I know him a little bit, we spent some time together, but he's not like, we're not close, but I've enjoyed every second with him. But growing up with his voice, I've known his voice since I was about 10 years old. And I found myself, even when I watch clips back now, like sort of getting emotional watching him talk, because like you said earlier, like he's done so much. He's been around for all of it. Like he's been like deeply entrenched in this topic for the majority of your and my life. And seeing him there was just so awesome. And I think that, George is, he's closer to the end of his life than he is the beginning. And I think that this is something he'll be remembered for forever. And it was just great to see. I'm curious what you thought while watching him.
I have the same feeling of him overall. I mean, like he's like kind of like he's like our UAP Santa Claus.
Yeah.
He brings us these amazing gifts, and he was like the one that like brought this to us in such a digestible way over the years, and the first one to take it seriously and wasn't afraid of what people thought of him for doing it, because I mean he was in it when you mention the word UFO and you just everybody turns
You're a quack.
an eye and like you're a fucking quack, and this guy powered through, and look where he is right now. I think that was a beautiful moment, and I got emotional seeing him speak, and I thought it was really special, and I commend him and thank him for his dedication to this for so long, because my God, it's got to be one of the toughest things in journalism to ever pick as a lead topic. I know he's done a lot of other stuff, but yes,
he's also got some big brass balls by mentioning Jim Ryder and Glenn Gaffney. Jim Ryder's passed away, but he's one of the main gatekeepers for the UFO topic for years. But Glenn Gaffney was, I believe his title was like the head of science and technology for the CIA. And this is a guy who, in 2009, 2011, Lockheed Martin was working on a deal. They have a craft, which I believe is from the Kingman, Arizona, the famous Kingman crash. I think that's the one they were trying to divest themselves of and give that craft to Robert Bigelow Aerospace, Bass, who was trying to build out a hangar to receive this kind of stuff, to see what Bigelow could do with the technology. And Glenn Gaffney is the guy who shut that transfer down. And George named him in public, and that's pretty big. And this is a guy who is still alive, who could probably be subpoenaed at some point. And I would love to hear what he says about this stuff. But George, they were asked to name names. George said, James Ryder, and then Jeremy Corbell leaned in and reminded George, like he said, Glenn Gaffney. And George said, I have another name for you. And he dropped the Gaffney one. And I know you can watch the video and you can see people like Matt Brown and myself and anyone else who's been following along. People start nodding because we know that that's a big one to put on the record. So
Shit.
that should get the ball rolling a little bit more too. But these are the people.
Epic.
These are the people that are keeping these things from society. So it's good to have them named, and that's George Knapp.
Hero.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Oh, man.
Any other closing thoughts before we wrap this one up? I mean, I could keep going for quite a while, but you know.
Oh my God, me too. Did you see any like follow up on any of this stuff in the horizon? Or do they plan on having any skiffs? Any other?
I'm sure.
Hearings.
I'm sure they're going to try to get Borland in a skiff for sure. But he also made it very clear, like, you know, he goes, I got to find out if I can talk to you, and if you even have the right to hear what I have to say, because some of the people asking questions don't have the clearances to even be able to receive what he wants to say.
God.
So, also, we didn't mention that Dave Grush was in attendance. Dave Grush
Right.
was there in the because he works
And you
for,
met him.
Yeah, I got to shake his hand. Finally, I got to finally meet Dave Grush. We didn't talk much, but shook his hand and said, you know, thank you so much for all the work you're doing. And like, what a beefy, strong hand that man has. But yeah, he's working for Burleson now. But anyway, yes, I do think there'll be more skiffs. I think there'll be more hearings, and I will say that like, I afterwards I spent the rest of the day with the witnesses and Jeremy and Matt Brown and the like, and the whole vibe was so positive, and so everyone was there for each other. No one was competing for like a spotlight. It was so supportive and so like unity. Everyone had unity, and it was amazing to see the way everyone was kind of working together. And I think there'll be more of that going forward. Hopefully, they're working on some kind of new whistleblower protections where people can come forward and speak.
Yeah, I could tell
freely.
that, you know, even the representatives were learning to ask better questions. Like,
Yeah.
like I feel like that side of things is evolving, because that's almost as important in a weird way, you know, that they know what to ask. And
They're
so
definitely getting the right questions, and also helps because you have David Grush sitting on the other side that also knows what kind of questions to ask and what can be asked. And even, you know, asking questions that you know you're not going to get an answer to, but a non-answer is also a pretty big answer.
Yeah.
You know, but it was amazing to be there once again. Honored. Thank you, Jeremy, for having me and allowing me to kind of tag along on something that is so important to me and to you and to others. And I can't wait for the next one. And
thank you to Jeremy and George for really making this whole thing happen.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are the force behind this whole movement.
Yep. People want to give Jeremy shit, but I'll tell you what, you wouldn't have these hearings without him.
Yep.
And there is zero doubt about that. So be grateful, and you'll be hearing more from him soon. We'll be hearing more from some witnesses, I'm sure, and I can't wait. And things are getting really good. Things are getting exciting, dude.
Pretty awesome. Well, thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Chad. People, please, if you're watching on YouTube, please like this video. Share to someone who might want to learn something. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please share, leave a review, subscribe. It helps us very much. And all we do is have cool conversations. So you may as well join. Right?
It's fun.
Yeah. Chad, we will talk to you soon. And that's it. Bye.
They are others from another mother. What do we want to say?